Welcome viewer to the course of web designing. In this video, you will learn about CSS Box Model and how to set its dimension, padding, border and margin properties. The CSS Box Model. All HTML elements can be considered as boxes. In CSS, the term box model is used when talking about design and layouts. When displaying a web page, the browser rendering engine represents each element as a rectangular box according to the standard CSS box model. CSS controls the size, position, and properties of these boxes such as color, background, border size, etc. The CSS box is composed of 4 parts or area. These 4 parts are the contents, padding, border, and margins. The following diagram illustrates the CSS box model. The contents area. This area consists of contents like text, images, or other media contents. Its dimensions are the contents width and height. It often has a background color or a background image. The padding area is the transparent space around the content area and within the border box. The border area extends the padding area to include the element's border, while the margin area allows you to set the transparent spacing around the border of an element box. It is useful to separate an element from its neighbor. Example of the CSS box model. Look at these codes to understand how the box model actually works. Within the body section, we have defined the div element and then apply the CSS rule to set its different properties. The background color has also been defined for the div element. To set the contents area, the width and height properties are also defined within the CSS rule, where the value of width property is 300 pixels while height is 200 pixels. And padding, which represents the transparent area around the contents area, it has a 25 pixels padding around the contents area, where the thickness of the border is 25 pixels and its color is blue. And the margin area around the border is 15 pixels, is used to separate an element from other elements. So the output of these codes will be something like this one. So text, this represents the contents area, and this spacing around the text represents the padding area, while the outside the padding we have the border, which is represented in blue color, and then the outside the border there is a margin, but margin is of 15 pixels and it is a transparent white area. Now to study the CSS box model properties in more detail, look at this figure. The given figure illustrates the different parts of the CSS box model. So let's start to study first the CSS Dimensions properties. CSS has several dimensional properties such as width and height, which we have already studied in the previous example. And there are also some other properties such as maximum width, maximum height, and minimum height that allow you to control the width and height of an element. The width and height property define the width and height of the contents area of an element. This width and height doesn't include padding, border, or margin. Look at the figure of CSS Box Model to know that how the effective width and height of an element box is calculated. Look at this example. This example defines the height and width property for the div element. So similarly, you can set the width and height property of the other element as well within your document. Setting maximum width and height. When you specify the maximum width and maximum height property to set the contents area, then an element cannot be wider than the maximum width value even if the width property value is set to a greater value. And similarly, an element cannot be taller than the maximum height value even if the height property value is set to a greater value. You can also specify the minimum width and minimum height property for an element contents area. You can use both of them to specify the maximum and minimum range of the width and the height properties. As in the following example, the width and height properties are defined for the div element. So the height of the div element never be less than 150 pixels and never be greater than 400 pixels. Similarly, the range of the width property is also defined to range from 200 pixels up to 450 pixels. CSS Padding Properties. The CSS Padding Properties allow you to set the spacing between the contents of an element and its border area. You can specify the padding for any specific side of an element, such as to apply padding at top, bottom, right, or left side only, or you can apply the padding for all sides of an element. Look at this segment of code. Here we want to apply padding on P elements, where the top padding is 40 pixels, padding for the bottom is 60 pixels, while padding for the left and right sides are 50 pixels. Some more examples on CSS padding. In these examples, we are applying CSS padding on element P. So look at this first example. Here the padding has 4 values. So it means to apply 25 pixel padding at the top, 50 pixel padding at the right, 75 pixel padding at the bottom, while 100 pixel padding at the left side of the element P. If the padding property has 3 values, then it means to apply 25 pixel padding at the top, while apply 50 pixel padding at the left and right side, while 75 pixel padding at the bottom. If the padding property has 2 values, then it means use this first value to apply 25 pixel padding at the top and bottom, while to apply 75 pixel padding at the left and right side of the element. If the padding property has one value, then it means apply 70 pixel padding on all sides of the element. That is, apply 70 pixel padding at the top, right, bottom and left side. CSS Border Properties. The CSS Border Properties allow you to define the border area of an element box. The border style properties is used to define the styles of the border, such as to draw a solid line or a dotted line, or you don't want to draw any border, then set the value of this property to none. Border width. This property specifies the thickness of the border, while the border color properties is used to specify the color of the border. Look at this example to show you that how these mentioned properties should be used. In this example, we want to draw a border around the H1 element where the border style is double, the width is 15, the thickness of the border is 15 pixels, while the color of the border is blue. You can use another notation to apply the border. So look at this one. Here we want to, this example also show to apply a border on H1 element. It will be 15 pixel, it will be double border, and the color of the border will be blue. So you can use any one of these notation to draw a border around an element. CSS Margin Property. It allows you to set the spacing around the border of an element. An element margin is not affected by its background color. However, if the parent element has the background color, it will appear in the margin area. Look at this example to define margins for P elements. You can also use another notation to define margins for an element. So look at this examples. Here the margin properties has only one value, so it means to apply 50 pixel margin on all sides of the P element. If there are two values, then it means apply 25 pixel margin at the top and bottom, while apply 75 pixel margin at the left and right side. If the margin has three values, then it means apply 25 pixel margin at the top. The first value will apply to top margin, while the second one 50 pixel margin apply to the left and right side, while apply 75 pixel margin at the bottom. If there are four values, then the first one apply to top, the second one will apply to right, this third one will apply to the bottom margin, while the fourth one apply to the left margin. Thanks for watching this video.